do you think about your mortality? Are you afraid of death?
So, fear of death is like one of the most fundamental fears that each of us has. We might be not even aware of it. It requires to look inside to even recognize that it's out there. There is still, let's say, this property of nature that if things would last forever, then they would be also boring to us.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the things change in some way gives any meaning to them. I also, found out that it seems to be very healing to people to have these short experiences, like I guess psychedelic experiences in which they experience death of self,
Mm-hmm.
in which they let go of this fear and then maybe can even increase the appreciation of the moment. It seems that many people they they can easily comprehend the fact that the money is finite,
Mm-hmm.
while they don't see that time is finite. I have this like a discussion with Ilya from time to time. He's saying, man, like the life will pass very fast. At some point, I will be 40, 50, 60, 70, and then it's over. This is true, which also makes me believe that, that every single moment it is so unique that should be appreciated. And it's also makes me think that I should be acting
Mm-hmm.
on my life because otherwise it will pass. I also like this framework of thinking from Jeff Bezos on regret minimization. That like I would like if I will be at the deathbed to look back on my life and not regret that I haven't done something. It's usually you might regret that you haven't tried. I'm fine with failing.
I haven't tried.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Nietzsche eternal recurrence. Try to live a life that if you had to live it infinitely many times, that would be you'd be okay with that kind of life. So try to live it optimally.
I can say that it's almost like unbelievable to me where I am in my life. I'm extremely grateful for actually people whom I met. I would say I think that I'm decently smart and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think that actually, to great extent, where I am has to do with the people who I met.
Would you be okay if after this conversation you died?
So if I'm dead, then it kind of I don't have a choice anymore. So in some sense, there's like a plenty of things that I would like to try out in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that I'm gradually going one by one, and I'm just doing them. I think that the list will be always infinite.
Yeah. So might as well go today.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I'm not looking forward to die. I would say if there is no choice, I would accept it. But like in some sense, I'm. If there would be a choice, if there would be possibility to leave, I would fight for living.
I find it's more honest and real to think about, dying today at the end of the day. That seems to me, to at least to my brain, more honest slap in the face, as opposed to I still have 10 years like today. Then I'm much more about appreciating the cup and the table and so on, and less about like silly worldly accomplishments and all those kinds of things.
We have in the company a person who say at some point found out that they have cancer, and
Yeah.
that also gives huge perspective with respect to what matters now.
Yeah.
And often people in situations like that, they conclude that actually what matters is human connection.
And love, and that's people conclude also if you have kids, it's kids, it's family. You I think tweeted, we don't assign the minus infinity reward to our death. Such a reward would prevent us from taking any risk. We wouldn't be able to cross a road in fear of being hit by a car. So in the objective function, you mentioned fear of death might be fundamental to the human condition.
So as I said, let's assume that there are like a reward functions in our brain, and And the interesting thing is even realization how different reward functions can play with your behavior. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't say that you should assign infinite negative reward to anything, because that messes up the math.
The math doesn't work out.
It doesn't work out. And it's, as
Okay.
you said, even, government or some insurance companies, you said they assign $9 million to human life.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying it with respect to, that might be a harsh statement to ourselves, but in some sense that there is a finite value of our own life.
Mhm.
I'm trying to put it from perspective of being less, of being more egoless,
Yeah.
and realizing fragility of my own life. And in some sense, the fear of death might prevent you from acting, because anything can cause death.
Yeah, and I'm sure actually, if you were to put death in the objective function, there's probably so many aspects to death and fear of death and realization of death and mortality. There's just whole components of finiteness of not just your life, but every experience and so on that you're gonna have to formalize mathematically.
And also, that might lead to um, you spending a lot of compute cycles on this, like deliberating this terrible future instead of experiencing now. And then in some sense, it's also kind of unpleasant simulation to run in your head.
Yeah.